Welcome back. Part 2 of my previous life tale. Every week I kept on coming back and I was too scared to stay. I couldn't even introduce myself. It was stupid. I just couldn't do it. Until August 31, 1825, I turned up and I saw one kid who asked me to play catch. And I took one look at him and ran away. I ran so fast I tripped over and the kid caught up to me and I yelled, "Don't touch me!" And the kid appeared ever so nice to me and said, "All I wanted to do is play catch with me, you mister. What is up with you? You're a crazy person." I said, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you," so I didn't. And I ran back to my shed. The kid watched me go and then walked back to the group. His name was Henry 8, age 11. I was 52. I couldn't get messed up with the kids. I thought to myself, so I decided to catch the stagecoach to wherever it takes me. On that stagecoach, I met a nice lady who was willing to understand my story. So I told her that I was thrown out to sea, and she told me her name was Georgia Holmes and offered me a place to stay. I accepted with a smile, and when he got to her house, it was really a big house with pot plants in every corner and a very fancy-looking pergola in her backyard. She was divorced with 2 young children named John, 11, and Susanna, 9. John played baseball for the Salt Lake City Devils. They were good at playing baseball, so much, in fact, I decided to register on the team in the seniors. I went under the names of Jack Holmes. 6 years after, the year was 1835, and I was 58 years old, and I made the grand final that year, and I scored this fantastic home run. I was made coach of John's team, and I took them into 3 finals, never made a grand final. I happily watched John and Susie grow up into proper adults, which made me think when they were adults, I want to have kids myself. So when John was 23 and Susanna was 21, I decided to leave Salt Lake City to find a woman, as Georgia was too old for me, a 64-year-old. Had to find a way to do it with someone, with my history, found it hard. I kept on getting knockbacks. So one day, about 10 years on, I was 72 and the year was 1845. I gave up baseball to become a clown at the circus. My name was Funny Pants Jimmy. When I would do a show then, if I meet any women, I would use the trailer for the rootin'. 30 years went on and I was 102 in the year 1875. I was ever so pleased about living past 100. I met this nice girl and decided to settle down in Australia, as my name then was Daniel Parker, local farmer. I owned a farm. A farm, mate! Oh, I gotta be a farmer, mate. A farmer's a living rate. And I lived in a farm just outside Narrabri. And we had 2 beautiful children named George and Kelly. And we had George on December 14, 1881, and Kelly on July 12, 1885. On January 14, 1897, I was so surprised about my age, 124, I sold the farm to enroll at the university in Melbourne. And my son George didn't like living at home, so he moved out at 16, and Kelly continued on at school. I was selected for the team university in the newly formed VFL competition. Australian rules. Aussie rules, mate! I had to fake my age, though, but it was ever so easy. 6 years later, I was given a medal, and Kelly moved out at 18. The medal was the best player for the year at university. The coach said I have to move on, and me, with my very shaky past, took it literally and left my wife to the year was 1903 when Richard Forrester died. After all those years of living, he finally died. On the 4th of April 1905, Raymond Beaver was born. He started off going to football and cricket matches in Melbourne for about 3 years until one day his father said, "We are going to New York to live." He had a job there. I was 5 and a half. We lived in New York for about 4 years. I was 9 when I first enjoyed one of the nicest cities in the world. We went back to Melbourne in 1915 when I was 11 years old and enjoying travelling around the world with my parents. My parents decided to have another kid to give me a little brother and sister to play with. He was born on the 4th of May 1918 and I was 14 years old, and when I left school to take up a job in the circus, my parents were very worried about me and I had to do it. My parents took my younger brother to the circus to watch me, and it was all very fun. I was in the circus till I was 20, and then I took my new job at a general store in Melbourne, still living with my folks. My brother was 6, and I was asking questions about my life. In May 1926, I found myself a lady named Francine Gregory, in which I was to marry and move up to Queensland to live. I found myself a job in a steelworks factory where I was making just enough to live on for a while. In November 1926, Francine fell pregnant and I was forced to settle them down and leave my job to work in a more easier area to my wife and kids. So in July 1929 was the birth of our first son, Jacob Alexander, in which I was so determined to have another baby to give him a younger playmate. In December 1930, we headed off to Darwin, where we lived as fugitives for a while to avoid being asked to work or join the army, because the army stinks. In December 1935, we were broke as ever. We heard anyone broke. If living off the berries in Darwin, you know those awful berries you see on the trees there, and not knowing whether those berries were good enough to eat or not. I got bitten by a poisonous snake and had to be rushed to hospital. I was all right, and we were trying to bludge money off the farmers to get by. We stole their plane and took off to another part of the world. In May 1940, we settled down in a village where I was made the town's mayor for a while, until we found out. In August 1944, I saved 3 people in World War II, and I did it as I landed my plane and got my gun and charged in on the terrorists, saying, "You let those people go, you fucking mongrels!" And I fired the gun 3 times. And eventually they surrendered. We surrender! We surrender! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! These people. In September 1950, I became, at the age of 46, I took off and became a priest to get extra money. I was there for 15 years with many people coming to you with their problems. In the last 5 years of being a priest, I took drugs and was sacked in 1965. And in December 1965, a robber broke into my home and shot me dead. And my family were the ones left to pay for the funeral. Too bad we didn't have funeral plan back then, I can tell you, mate. And I can also guarantee, whether you hear voices or not, you're hearing voices of people teasing you, you know, you just say, oh, I can read the story. All they can do is say, woosey. I'm reading the story, they say, shut up, woosey. I'm reading the story, they say, shut up, woosey. Wrong, I'm talking about my previous life here. I'm talking about previous life. Shut up, woosey. I'm talking about previous life, mate. I'm talking about my previous life. Shut up, wussy. I'm talking about my previous life. I'm a Buddhist. I don't believe in this Christian going to heaven rubbish. Shut up, wussy. Yes, you do. I'm believing in previous lives, but I don't believe in this Christian rubbish. Shut up, wussy. Yes, you do. You're still a Christian, mate. Oh, no, I don't believe in that. I'm a Buddhist. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're still a Christian. I'm sorry. I'm not letting you be a Buddhist. Oh, no, I don't care if you're letting me be a Buddhist or not. I'm still a Buddhist, and that's what I believe in. Oh, I don't care. You're Christian. That's what I used to treat you like. Oh, really? Well, I'm a Buddhist. That's true. Okay, everybody, catch you later. See you later for another. That was part 2.